want to know how to turn fish that do this into fish that you're flipping in the boat like this? Well, stay tuned because we're going to show you one way that you can do that in this video. What's going on, guys? Bassin' It Up Mava here, coming at you with a new video. And in this week's video, I got some pretty great tips for you coming at you. Not a crazy ton of fish or absolutely epic day of fishing in this video, but this day as a whole is a great example of one way that you can turn fish that want to follow baits or chase down baits or even nip at baits constantly, especially these bigger swim baits like I'm throwing in this video. If you throw up a follow-up bait to that fish, a lot of times you can catch them. And this day is a perfect example of it. Now, we can't turn every fish that we get to follow into an eater, but we pretty much got all of them. And I'm going to show you how we did that in this video, and here we go, y'all. So to start, I am pulling out the Jackal Gantrel. I am trying to make a goal to throwing these bigger style swim baits a lot lately, and at this time period, this is just after the bass are pulling off of their beds and have gotten done spawning, so they really are keyed into bluegill at this time typically, and they will smash them to get them away from their eggs or their fry. So I'm going to try to capitalize on that by throwing this Jackal Gantrel, and we'll see what happens.
Oh man, you came up and whopped that thing. I was not ready for that.
Now deciding to pack up and head to the next spot. Going to keep going around hitting this shoreline cover with the Gantrel after having that nice one come up and swipe at it. Going to keep trying that and see what happens. I'm really just targeting a lot of the same areas that I targeted earlier in the year with the finesse worm and finesse jig. The same exact areas that I targeted with those baits, I'm targeting with the Gantrel now. If you don't know what I'm talking about there, you should go and watch a bunch of my videos from the earlier part of this year and watch a bunch of the finesse fishing videos on fishing the finesse worm and the finesse jig in the early pre-spawn season. So these next couple casts, you guys won't see it because the camera couldn't pick it up. I tried like crazy to edit it so that you guys could see it, but no matter what I did, it just wasn't there. Unfortunately, GoPros don't come with a polarized lens, so you don't get to see any of this fish. But this fish is real important. This fish followed my Gantrel probably 4 or 5 different times and nipped at it all but every cast with it. That's why you see me all but set the hook on it once or twice, and I start to get a little bit frustrated with it. But what I do here in a few minutes that you're going to see next is really important and something that you guys definitely want to make sure you do if you run into a situation like this. So pay attention closely here.
Come on. Oh no.
So next I get stuck on that tree that I was throwing at so many times with that bass, and I had to move in a little bit closer, so that's not what you need to pay attention to though.
Are you kidding me? A big old rock bass really just hit that stupid Jackal Gantrel. That is a giant rock bass. Come on.
Spotlock be playing games with me. So now, here is what you really need to pay attention to. So now, after having that fish go after my gantrel, I don't know how many times, and having him all fired up, he wouldn't hit that swim bait, and he stopped going after it then, especially after I got stuck. But I make my way up the bank, make a few more casts at the other couple trees that are there with the gantrel, and then I decide to circle back around and throw my jig at this fish. And that's something important that you want to do, because a lot of times if you go back on these fish that you've already done fired up, that you can have go after a bait that many times but just not commit to it. A lot of times throwing something a little bit different in there to them can get them to react and eat it.
There we go. That's a nice solid one there, guys. Heck yeah. Check him out. Really nice. Thought it was about 3.5 pounder. One on that hook. Let that one go. So what I did there is I fired him up with that bluegill swim bait. Kept coming out, following it, and nudging at it, but not getting the hook. And then I flipped this jig in there after he was fired up, and boom, he was on. First cast flipping in there with that jig too.
Really important too where this fish was sitting. He was sitting right in the nastiest part of that tree where all the branches come together, and that's typically what they'll do. They'll sit in the portion where they have the most cover and the best hiding spot so that they can easily ambush bait fish coming by and are the most protected. Now I decide to pick up and head to another spot. Now, after having that quick success on the jig, at the next spot I decide to pick that up first and toss that around a little bit. Right now I'm throwing it around a lot of submerged cover, grass patches, and stumps. There we go. Another solid one. Little jig. Just doing wonders on these bass out here lately. Another solid one. Let that nice one go. There she goes. Now, after catching that fish, that was the only one caught in that area, decide to pick up and head back to the first spot that we started at and missed that first fish at. Decide to pick up the gantrel and throw that around there again and see if we can't get that fish to bite again or react again. So this one was, there's just no words really. The fish that show themselves to these big baits are insane. In this shot, it's really hard to see, but there's a really nice sized largemouth and then a smallmouth, really big smallmouth, that comes up behind it, following it all the way to the boat. Oh, but unfortunately, tried to gantrel around. That was the only follows I got on it there, and I tried to jig there as well. I must have pulled those fish off of that cover, and they must have not came back or not wanted to jig, because they didn't hit and it didn't work like it did on the other one. Now, after that epic failure, I decide to head back over to the other set of trees that we had a couple follows at and try for a few of the fish that I couldn't get there to bite. It's always good to go back to these fish that you get to see show themselves or pull out of the cover on these big baits, because these big baits will pull fish off of cover, and then a lot of times later they'll go back to it and you can catch them on something else. They don't want to commit to that. A good one, guys. There we go, guys. Another nice solid one there. Decent one. Let him go now. Well, guys, here we are at the portion of the video where I break it down a little bit for you. So, really, there was no big key to what I was doing. I was just going around fishing the shoreline cover. Same places I was fishing in the pre-spawn and spawn. I fished right after in the post-spawn. That's when this video took place, during the post-spawn. So these fish were focused on bluegills and trying to keep them away from their fry, and they were guarding them and also feeding on them as well. But I was trying to capitalize on that, like I said, by throwing the Jackal Gantrel. I had quite a bit of action on it, a lot of follows, but couldn't get any to commit to it and really try and eat it. And then would flip in with this small jig and ended up getting quite a few of them. Unfortunately, not the really big ones. But that's something that you can really do when you're throwing these big swim baits like that. If you're on a really pressured like this one is, sometimes it's hard to get them to commit to a big bait, especially if you're not an expert at throwing them like I am. If you're really good at throwing these guys, sometimes you could be a little bit better at triggering them to eat it, and also be a little more on the ball at setting the hook on them. I've missed quite a few of them and been kind of in awe at what I've seen already quite a few times, that I have dropped the ball on quite a few nice fish. But hopefully you guys can learn from my mistakes in this video and capitalize on some of them big fish with doing something like this and switching up on them. Something I probably should have did on the first one right off the bat when he first came out after it. I might have got him. But that smallmouth and that other one did not want anything to do with it, didn't seem. But that was the big ticket, and it just goes to show you, even on these pressured lakes, these big bass will show themselves to these big swim baits like this. But that was one way at how I turned these followers and fish that would not commit to eating the gantrel into biting. I would flip back into them with this little jig, and as you saw, most of them ended up biting. But that pretty much concludes it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Stay tuned for the next one. And also get entered into my giveaway. As soon as we hit 2,500 subscribers, we're going to be doing a giveaway for a fishing trip with me. So to be entered in that, you got to be subscribed to the channel. You got to like this video. You can comment for another entry, and if you share it on your social media page, you'll get another entry as well. But we will see y'all next Thursday. Tight lines.
So instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it.